All right, folks, welcome to the weekly Manchester United show. I'm at home today, joined, of course, by regular co-host, the fantastic Colm immediately after the United Sheriff game. How you doing, mate?
All good, mate. Hopefully, a lot more slagging on my mustache today. It's going to get even worse through November, so anyone watching this, just continue to batter me for
What,
it. It's all good.
the moustache is going to get worse, or what?
Yeah. Oh, it's going to get way worse.
Well, we'll have a wee look at that there over the and make sure that you get tortured. That's the only reasonable thing to do. Um, big result, of course, at the weekend against Chelsea. Good win for United tonight. We have recorded since Chelsea. We'll talk a wee bit about that and talk a wee bit about, of course, the result against Sheriff tonight. We'll talk about some of the other things that I mentioned in my message yesterday about Benjamin Sesko, Edwin van der Sar, and a couple of other things. If you have any comments for us, any questions for us, go ahead and tweet us. Or leave some comments and we will get to them. First of all, make a quick, what was your view on tonight?
Good game. It was good to see Garnacho play. Would have liked to see maybe Zidane well as well, just because we should be beating that opposition with a couple of kids out there. But all in all, good game. I mean, including Ronaldo in the squad, I think people will be surprised at me saying this, but I don't think he should have been after everything.
Mm.
I've really taken a stance that normally I wouldn't. But look, he was included. He scored a goal. I think the inclusion of Ronaldo sums up the problems at United in terms of the recruitment, and it shows that we have no one else that Ten Hag feels comfortable with in attack. So it's one of those things. Ronaldo's going to
Mm.
play whether he leaves in January or not's another question. But like, let's get him back scoring goals and see where we can go from here.
Yeah, well, I'll get to Ronaldo. I'll give you my views on him in a minute. Tonight, I'm going to use a word that we rarely use, routine. And a
Mm.
routine win against the team United should be beaten, let's be honest, regardless of the state United are in. I think what's encouraging, if you look at Ten Hag's comments before the game, I thought they were encouraging when he said Garnacho's impressed him in training and he's earned that place. And I think there's two things to take from that. One, the fact that he's earned a place, which is exactly what's happened at United, and that applies to Ronaldo and applies to everyone else. You have to earn a place in this team now. You don't get a 6 to 10 game or 15 game run of poor form and staying in the team. You have to play well. One bad game can get you dropped, as Malacia found out. And I think that is extremely encouraging. We've been missing that for so long. So and Garnacho is an exceptional young talent. If between
I
him and
think he would
Alanga,
do with a loan. I think
yes,
he
of
could do
course,
with a
but
loan.
Cameron, remember he's only 18. I could agree with you. Do with alone, consistent football at even at championship level would do him a world of good. But here's the thing: you have to be really careful about loans. I mean, Ahmad hasn't exactly lit it up out on loans, right? And I've been disappointed in him. But if you look at Jimmy Garner had a really bad loan, was away at Swansea, I believe, ended up going to Forest. That was the right loan, worked out well for him, developed. You get the right football club where you're not just being brought to sit in the bench, where you're actually integral to someone's plans, where they value you. You're not just a bench filler. You're at the right football club that plays in a way that you play, that doesn't have chaos in the dressing room. Then I think that is very, very good. Um, one of the things that every time I've seen Garnacho play, he excites me every single time. I thought he had a brilliant preseason. Thought he played really well, and he's definitely very, very exciting for the future. So it was great to see him play tonight. I thought he played well tonight. And look, sometimes, Colm, it's not just about playing the game; it's about playing the occasion. Because when you're a young player like that, you have so much work to do to stay in the team, especially this team. And I have to say, when I watch Garnacho, I'm left with the conclusion that Jadon Sancho's not a winger.
I can understand where you're coming from, and I think Sancho's riding the crest of a wave at the moment in terms of he's not really performing in and out every week. But I think the same could be said for Anthony, who, for one reason or another, is hooked at half time today. I said on this podcast a few weeks ago, I haven't seen much from him, and your argument was, well, he scored 3 goals in the past 3 games in the Premier League. What more do you want from him? To be honest, I
Mm-hmm.
understand where you're coming from, and I get that argument. But at the end of the day, neither winger's really showing anything. Garnacho, I would like to see a bit more from in coming weeks, coming off the bench. We haven't seen that yet. Is there
Well,
an
he hasn't
opportunity
played.
for him to? Yeah, that's what I mean. We haven't seen that yet in terms of coming off the bench. So, is there an opportunity for him to break into this team? Absolutely. Jadon Sancho isn't a world beater. Jadon Sancho isn't putting in a 9 and a 10 performance every week. So there's an opportunity for Garnacho to break into this side, and I'd love to see it. But again, I do think he would benefit from a loan. Another player I was really impressed with tonight was Victor Lindelof, and obviously with Varane being out, there's an opportunity for him to step in into the side in the coming weeks. Whether he does or not is another question. I'm not too sure if he'll start at the weekend. I would like to see him start at the weekend because I think on merit he deserves it. And Ten Hag has shown in previous weeks he's going by who's impressing the most. And Lindelof for me was great tonight.
Definitely, I think he's been really, really good every time he's come in. He hasn't put a foot wrong, to be honest. I thought he, in my opinion, is third choice centre back. Maguire's fourth. Um, that's based on form. It's based on what I've seen. I would trust at this point Maguire or Lindelof for trust. Maguire's not a criticism of Maguire. It's more a compliment of Victor Lindelof and how well he's been playing. Um, I think when you look at some of the other positions that I think we've seen Casemiro really grow into being a United player the last few weeks. I think when it comes to the way players, I maybe it's confidence. I don't know, but I don't see the things in Jadon Sancho that I see in a traditional winger. I don't see the pace. I don't see him wanting to take people on, beat players. If you look at his goals this season, all of them have come from central positions. I think he's more suited to a central position. I don't think United can get him in a team in a central position, but I thought he was really poor against Chelsea. I think since that 3 week break where United, of course, when the Queen died, prior to that he was excellent. He just hasn't recovered, and he is a young lad that has to be looking at that World Cup going. I think he'll make a squad all right, but he should be concerned because his form has been a bit poor the last few weeks.
What's the answer then, in your opinion? Do you push Rashford out on the
know.
left? Do you switch Anthony out left and see how he is on the left hand side instead of this cutting inside every single time? Because again, that's the thing with our wingers. We have no out and out wingers at the moment. They're both cutting inside. We're never hitting the byline and getting the crosses. And I know we're not a team that crosses the ball essentially, but when you've got someone like Ronaldo in some of these games when he's playing and he can get his head in the ball, why are we not doing that?
I think, to be fair, the way United play their way players is they play them as inverted wingers, as inside forwards. I don't think they play the old traditional winger, get to the byline, knock a ball in the box. I think United's game plan is, especially up front, um, is to me it's a bit simplistic. It always reminds me of David Moyes against Fulham, where United launched 45 balls in the box and nobody got on the end of one. If you look at Rashford, you look at City, you look at all these top teams, they have inverted forwards, inverted wingers that play close to a central striker. They don't really hug the line. And I think that's a directive that you need to give their players. I would say Anthony is a traditional winger in many ways. I think what we have to be, if you look at Gabby Jesus started like a house on fire. Gabby Jesus' goals was dried up, right? This is if you look at other wingers, you look at Sterling. Sterling scored one goal for Chelsea this season. You look at United's peers. Very few wingers are scoring with regularity, are scoring goals. Every 3 games, every 2 games. When I said that about Anthony, he just scored 3 and 3. I don't think you could expect more than him from a player that had just joined the Premier League. Jadon Sancho scored 3 goals this season, and he's in his second season as a Manchester United winger, and he's English. And we're still talking about him settling. We're talking about a Brazilian kid that's come from Holland, young player with a massive price tag on his shoulders, into a developing team. I'm not sure you can expect much more from him. He should have scored against Chelsea at the weekend, no question. But I have to say, he excites me. He creates. He's dangerous. He runs with players with pace. And yes, he cuts inside, but Barcelona played 4-3-3 with that great team every single week. You knew what they were going to do, but you couldn't stop them. It's the question isn't that you know what they're going to do, is are you good enough to stop them? And even in the games that Anthony hasn't scored, he's hit the post, he's been dangerous, he's always trying to make something happen. He's direct, he's quick. And that to me is the opposite of what we're getting from Jadon Sancho, where he almost slows the play down because he doesn't run with pace. Is he wants to stop, lift his head, look left, look right, slip balls through. That's not a winger to me.
I get what you're saying. So who's your front three at the moment? I see a mustache comment there, loving it. Absolutely loving it. I seen that wee smirk from you, so I know it. Look, I love it. It's ready. It's ready for Tuesday. I'm going all. I'm going all out with this. Who's your front three then going forward
I don't
at the
know.
moment, based on form? Sancho, Anthony, and Rashford. Is that your front three?
I would say that the front three and the front three in many ways isn't far from perfect. Here's the thing about your forwards. They can't be costing you the game, right? If you look at United against Spurs, the midfield bailed United out, right? Because if you look at United against Chelsea, the midfield bailed United out. Who was the other game Rashford missed sitters against? It wasn't Spurs, it wasn't Chelsea, it was the game before that. Anyway, the point is against Newcastle, right? And this is where I'm going to bring up a point about Cristiano Ronaldo. A chance falls for Marcus Rashford in the last minute in that Newcastle game. He should have scored. So if the midfield didn't score against Chelsea, if the midfield didn't score against Spurs, we'd be sitting here talking about United's front line costing them games. That can't happen, right? It's not just Rashford; it's other forwards too. You know, Jadon Sancho has to be more consistent. So if you want to be a serious football team that challenges for the title, you look at what Liverpool had to do to catch City. Salah, Firmino, Mane, all scoring goals, right? Jota, all scoring goals. United will need 60 plus goals this season to finish the top four. I think they will finish the top four, but those goals have to come from somewhere. And I put out a tweet right after the Newcastle game saying they need more from their midfield because at that point they only had one goal and one assist from midfield, one goal and two assists. That's not enough. Since then, the midfielders have, with the exception of tonight, more or less won them. You got them a points against Spurs, got them a points against Chelsea, and they've doing what midfielders do. This is where, if you look at Rashford against Chelsea, the chances that he missed again, chances that you expect a forward to score, you're going. This is where you need to have a problem. Same with Jadon Sancho. Jadon Sancho was really, really poor against Chelsea. You can't have that, right? And still, you need to dominate that game. Those are supposed to be match winners, right? That to me is the problem. If you look at that chance that Rashford missed against Newcastle, it was in the 93rd minute. Ronaldo refusing to come on in the 88th minute, saying if Ronaldo had been there, he scored. Ronaldo probably wouldn't have come on the pitch. Ronaldo was 70 minutes in that game. He was awful. This is where he has to say, you know what? Given my current situation, whether it's 5 minutes, I'm the best player in the world. If that's what he believes, I'll score in 5 minutes. I'll come on the bench and show why I should play. Right? If that chance falls to him against Newcastle and it's in reverse, he scores. To me, he starts the next week. Right? You know, so the Everton game where Rashford again, you know, chances missed. Ronaldo bailed him out. To be fair, I think this is where I get concerned about our forward lines. The forwards are just not consistent enough. Rashford scored tonight, good goal, but Rashford needs to be hitting 20 plus. Martial's injuries are just a major, major problem. This is a situation you'd have to address, and I'll get into the Sesko thing in a minute.
So, if two numpties like me and you can sit here and analyse all these problems and look at all the issues with Manchester United and come to the conclusion that ultimately we need a striker, we need a number 9, say, at the moment, and we need that in January because realistically, are we going to get 60 goals from our forward line by the end of the season in order to finish
forward midfield?
I still think it's unlikely. So in January, do we
possible.
have to be looking at a striker?
Yes and no. I mean, they definitely need a striker in January, but not the wrong one. You know, there was a big headline yesterday about Ralph Rangnick and the players that he wanted to sign. This is not new. This has been known for a long, long time. I mean, Rangnick talked about some of this himself, and United didn't give Rangnick money in January. And in some sense, I understand why. He was an interim manager. United don't budget for buying in January, so the budget, whatever they spend in January, will come out of a summer's budget. So Obviously, the Ronaldo situation has to be concluded. This can't continue. And Ronaldo will be forgiven, Colm. Right? Make no mistake. There's a statue outside Old Trafford to a player that walked out in Manchester United more than once. Right? And what George Best, what remains is the memories of his football. That's what will remain with Ronaldo once he goes. It's a sad situation, it really is. And he deserves to be heavily criticised for his conduct. He never apologised to the fans, which I thought in his statement was completely unacceptable. Those fans sang his name week in, week out. They sang his name week in, week out when he was at Real Madrid. They sang his name week in, week out when he was at Juventus. They still sang his name tonight. He owes them, right? And the minute Ronaldo felt he was too big for United in 2009, he left, right? So here's the thing. Even if you watch the goals tonight, and I don't want to be overly critical of him, he didn't celebrate him. He didn't celebrate his own, right? You watch him when Dallo scored. You watch it when Rashford scored. I almost felt like he wanted to cry when Rashford scored, right? Scored himself, celebrated.
I think you're being overly critical. Like, I think
no, it's Ronaldo.
I think you're being overly critical and looking into it. Look, I've said at the start of this, I don't think Ronaldo should have been in the squad, but needs must sometimes, and that's why he is in the squad. That's why going forward we're going to rely on Ronaldo, and that's due to the incompetency of the board and above. Why? Because there's been nothing done. Because there's been no strikers brought in. There's no one else that can fill the void that Ronaldo is giving us at the moment, whether it be one goal every 5 games or just that having the option of a striker off the bench. By the way, a lot of those dirty websites you've been visiting or commenting on our video here, so going forward, we need you to stop that, big lad. But
you're the one with the Ron Jeremy moustache. I'm thinking it's you, mate. Not me.
But in terms of Ronaldo, I think you're being overly critical that he didn't celebrate. If I'm honest, I don't think Ronaldo has never been the type of player who, against Sheriff of Moldova, he's gonna celebrate goals. He's not been that guy.
He celebrated his own.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Unless it's his own, he's not
celebrated against Nicosia.
No, again, it was later on, wasn't it?
He celebrated against Nicosia. His penalty.
I just think I'm not too sure. I think you're being overly critical. I think Ronaldo. No. Ronaldo cares about himself, and we've all noticed that. We've all seen it, right? But to be critical of him because he didn't celebrate Rashford and those goals against Sheriff. Come on,
mate. Well, how come he celebrated his own, and his was the last?
Because it's his own goal.
Correct. But that's my point: is that Ronaldo will celebrate his victories. His victories are his, right? And if your team happens to win along with him, that's great. But his priority is Cristiano Ronaldo, right? If your team loses and he scores, you lost. He didn't, right? So even if he doesn't score, you lost. He didn't, right? And this has been tolerated by people because Ronaldo's been the best footballer in the world or close to it for the last 15 years, 10 years, whatever. You can tolerate that behaviour, but when he's not, did you see anything tonight that says to me he should be starting games for Man United? Because I didn't.
No, and again, I wouldn't judge him on a game like that tonight. I think obviously.
When do you judge him, man?
We'll judge him based on his performances in the Premier League against that standard of opposition, which, by the way, haven't been great. And I'm not sticking up for him here, but I'm saying this is where my point's coming in. That needs must. We need Ronaldo more than Ronaldo needs United at the moment. With no one else, we'll have no real.
That's so wrong. I would disagree with that vehemently. It's the opposite is true. Cristiano Ronaldo battling. Cristiano Ronaldo had a chance to prove that point, but Ronaldo had a chance to prove that point in the summer. Who came in for him?
Forget about the summer for a second. My point is right now, we don't have anyone to fill the void on the bench of Ronaldo. Who have we got?
Well, in my opinion, you could play players down the middle, no problems. That would be better than what you've got with Cristiano Ronaldo, even if they're not out-and-out strikers. I have no doubt about that. He is anyway. We're not going to spend this podcast talking about him. He's completely finished as the top-level footballer. Completely,
I think,
and that's blatantly obvious.
But I think at the moment, there's not much else other than him, and that's down to the board and not the recruitment. I mean, I would love to see the likes of Vlahovic. I would love to see someone like Harry Kane. Are they realistically going to happen? Probably not. I'd love to see Son from Spurs. I think he would do an unbelievable job. Players like this I'd love to see, but it just doesn't seem as if it's ever going to happen.
You're not getting Harry Kane. We've talked about this. Vlahovic was available at the time when United were not spending money. You have to, mate, you're a smart guy. United weren't spending money until they got murdered by Brentford, right? It was quite a
But is there
parsimonious
a point?
summer.
Okay, but is there a point where you analyze the situation? You look at what you've got. You look at going forward what we have. We've got a decent midfield now with the addition of Casemiro.
Mm,
I'd say our defense is looking stronger every time I
hmm
look at it, and we'll probably need another right back. Even once we get that, we're not the finished product because we haven't got an out and out
hmm
striker. So going
hmm
forward, you have to look at the big name strikers. I know
Of
you'll get on to
course,
Sesko,
going
but
forward, no.
is Sesko the answer?
Well, at this point, whatever Ten Hag says is the answer because he's earned the right to be trusted, even if it's a player we don't like, even if it's a player we think not sure. I mean, Arnautovic was the top goal scorer in Serie A until last week, right? Scumbag that he is. But given the success of Ten Hag signings, given the fact that those signings have completely revitalized the football club, I mean, if you want to know, you take a look at that Chelsea equaliser. That Chelsea equaliser may be more important than a comfortable 2 or 3 0 win. Now, yes, the points are better, but what you need to get from that, the team spirit, right? The collective, the illustration that everyone's pulling in the same direction. Cristiano Ronaldo's behaviour last season would have blended in. Now it doesn't. Now you're not part of the group. Now if you want to behave like a smack darsh, you're going to be isolated because you've got no friends. And that's the message. Ten Hag has to win this fight because it's not just about Cristiano Ronaldo. It's about the football club. In every single previous year, Cristiano Ronaldo wins this fight because Manchester United would have turned around and said he's worth too much commercially. He wins, but they can't do that anymore. And
But
Ronaldo's
therein
not
lies
moving
the
it.
problem.
No, no, hold on. Let me finish, mate, because this is important. Ronaldo isn't moving the needle anymore commercially. So his impact is left to what is he doing on the pitch? Is he worth 700 grand a week? Is he worth disrupting the dressing room? The only negative, really, in the last few weeks has been him. That's the only. I mean, we're sitting here talking about Ronaldo after wins, and we shouldn't be. We should be talking about how much United have improved. What we saw against Chelsea, we haven't seen in a United team for years. That was a team performance. I said something. I believe this to be true. United are a world class striker away. If you take a look, if you took Holland out of City, I don't think they're a million miles ahead of United. I don't think they're a million miles ahead of anyone. If you took Salah out of Liverpool, you took their world class strikers out of the teams that United are chasing, then I don't think they're that much better. Lissandro Martinez
I agree.
and Rafael Varane are the best centre back pair United have had since Vidic and ever, or Vidic and Ferdinand. And Lissandro Martinez may be one of my most favourite all time signings. Right, Christian Eriksen. I mean, if the kids weren't here, I'll have a trousers down with a white hacky out, right? Every time I'm watching them. I swear to God, every time he's just a privilege to watch. The balance, the technique, the feet, the brain, the movement. He never causes you a problem. He's just brilliant to watch. There's so many things that I like about this United team. Come, I hated this United team last season. I hated even watching them. They didn't just surrender in games last season. They surrendered their reputation. They surrendered everything. They went into games against Chelsea. I mean, take a look at what we saw with that Casemiro. Casemiro's come in and Christian Eriksen's come in and made a mockery of the whole Paul Pogba discussion when he just player to unlock him. He needs to adjust the Premier League, needs this, needs this. Christian Eriksen, Paul Pogba. Jesus Christ, the contrast is massive, right? The consistency from Eriksen. Sometimes you don't know what you're missing until you see a great player in that position. Seeing the contrast between Casemiro and Scott McTominay in that position, as much as I rate McTominay at certain things, the contrast is massive.
I agree with you, and you've listed everything in terms of what I said of what we need in terms of a world class striker. But the point
Yes.
is that Ronaldo is filling that void for me at the moment. We need to go out and spend big in January in order to finish the season like we should be finishing the season.
To
And I
be
think
fair, though,
if
they
we
didn't
don't,
realize Martial was going to get injured. Like that. I mean, it's a reasonable
well, they
assumption that
didn't
he get injured at
realize.
some point. But if Martial's fit,
Come
mate, we're
on,
talking.
mate.
We're having it. Here's the thing, Colm. If Martial's fit, maybe the results are the same. Maybe United still, they still don't beat Brentford. If you look at the games they've lost, I don't know if Martial. I mean, Martial made a difference against City, but other than that, maybe they beat Chelsea, right? Maybe they beat Newcastle, but Anyway, sorry, mate. I mean that. Go ahead. Yes, and I agree with you. You need a
No,
body,
no,
you need a
no.
world-class striker.
We do, and I mean, I think it's to say something like the board didn't realize Martial wasn't going to be injured. It's laughable because he's been injury prone since the minute we got him. They should have expected it. And in terms of genuinely, you should have Healy Brothers funeral directors at every game when Martial plays because he's absolutely there's something wrong. It's ridiculous now. It's getting to the point where it's absolutely ridiculous. And there is a player there, and it's unfortunate that he's injured all the time, but it's constant. So for you to say, I think that's an unfair comment to say, oh, the board should they didn't know. I think it's not. They should have expected it. This is where I said we need to be proactive and not reactive because, again, we're in the situation where in January we're going to have to be reactive. We're going to have to say, well, we're not going to spend. You'll tell me we're not going to spend any money in January. All these people say, oh, the Glazers, they're going to go in the summer. You know what happens in the summer? We're back to square one again. We're at the summer. Ronaldo leaves. We have to buy someone in the summer. Everyone
let me ask you this.
Because they know United are looking to strike it.
Nah, but mate, you have to realize a year from now, in the summer, football clubs are going to be in serious financial difficulties with everything that's going on in the global financial markets. Secondly, I think when you look at someone like Sesko, right? So the situation there is obviously he has a deal to go to Leipzig for 21 million. But there's a lot of people that if you talk to in football will say they don't think he'll ever kick a ball for Leipzig. They believe that was done to protect his transfer value. And Leipzig will sell a player, but United aren't the only club interested in him. There's other top clubs interested in him. He's big. He fits the mold of what Ten Hag wants. He fits. He's fucking arsehole tenders. Told you not to do that when I'm working.
Look at that WhatsApp I've sent you.
I'm afraid.
Just sent me a photo of you. Someone just sent me a photo of you and said that's Phil. Every time he talks about Ericsson.
That's a fair representation, to be fair. Anyway, totally lost my train of thought there. What was it saying?
I can't remember, but I was lost when I looked at that photo and I heard you saying Tinder.
Don't know, Jeff. No. Listen, with this summer, right, the January transfer window, to be fair to United, right? I mean, they spent 230 million this summer, more than anyone else. And if you look at, you're right to say they're reactive in a sense, because here's the thing. If you look at the gap between last January, right, when Ranić was there, I mean, United still weren't releasing money until the last 2 weeks of the window, right? And so when you look at that, they didn't have the money to risk giving to Ranić to then have to come in and give it to somebody else if they got it wrong. See, that's the thing about you. They can't afford to get it wrong.
Let me stop you there because back a few weeks ago and you told me ultimately Joe Glazer is the one that makes the decision on transfers.
Correct.
So if Ranić's giving him a player and he doesn't like it, he's not getting it anyways. So if it's all going down that train of thought and that's the route that we're taking things, then of course we should be out buying players. Because ultimately it's up to Joe Glazer, the one that's sending these deals off.
But United are not going to do that in January, mate. Right? I mean, unless I'm not saying they won't do it. I mean, I'm not saying they won't do it this January. I'm saying they didn't do it last January with a temporary manager in place. There was no way, right? They were going to give Ranić. And to be fair, well, they weren't going to give Ralph Ranić 50, 60 million last January and take it at Ten Hag's budget. And I'm glad they didn't, because that maybe that would have meant we didn't get Lisandro Martinez. Maybe that means one of the players United signed this summer wouldn't have signed, because maybe Ranić bought someone that doesn't fit Ten Hag's, profile, and now you've got to try to get rid of this player.
So let me ask you this, right? You're making an omelette and you have all the ingredients, but you haven't got any eggs. What do? You go and buy eggs, regardless of your budget. You make sure you get eggs because you need.
But you have to get a chef first.
And we need. Yes, but this is.
If your ma's in the kitchen, making you an omelette, or you're waiting for, I don't know, Wolfgang Puck in the summer, right? You make sure you wait and get Wolfgang Puck the eggs instead of getting them your ma's, right? So it's not the same.
This is what angers me about the transfer business, because you'll say there, United don't want to blow the budget. The problem is why United don't want to spend this money is how we have overpaid on players previous. the mistakes we've made in transfer windows previous that they don't want to continue to make. But you know what? You've got your guy now in Eric Ten Hag. Back him.
Yes. No,
Do what he
I'm
says.
saying they might. I'm saying that they might very well spend in January. I think if they could get CS:GO in January, they do it. Because at the end of the day, he's a player they're going to sign in 6 months anyway. If they feel that they can get him, so in their opinion, getting him in January, and taking it out of the summer budget is not an issue. So if that's what needs to happen, they'll do that. They're not just going to go out and buy in January anybody. It'll have to be someone. And if you look at what Ten Hag's done so far, right, he has earned the right to be trusted in the transfer market, 100%. Hasn't made one fucking bad signing, not one. Right, every single one of them have been an improvement, have improved the team, and I'm talking about. I emphasize team with a capital T, right, because they've come in and bought into Ten Hag and everything that he's done. And let me tell you something, all that Alison Rudd and a lot of these people that made fun of his accent, his clothes, his language. I'm not making fun of him now. And if United have not had an easy start, they've already played Chelsea, they've already played City, they've already played Liverpool, they've already played Arsenal, they've already played Newcastle, right? They're due a run against Bournemouth, Forest, a bunch of teams that they should beat, right? They're due a run. Tough game this weekend against West Ham. Very, very difficult game. And if you look at that Brentford result, may have been one of the most important results and performances in United's season because it was rock bottom and it allowed Ten Hag to be given the leverage to make major changes. There was also players that went to Joe Glazer after that game and demanded signings, right? And that's when the focus shifted from Arnautovic and Rabiot to Casemiro and Antony. And there's no question they're better players than what they would have signed, right? So that Brentford result may be, as bad as it was, one of the most important results this season. Everything changed after that. And it wasn't just the players that was brought in, it was Ten Hag man management. That I'm going to come in and make everyone run 12 miles and I'm going to do it with you. I think that is genius to me. That's how you win the respect of people. And what's amazing, Colm, is that if you'd have said last season about a manager getting respect, it would have been contingent upon Cristiano Ronaldo's approval. Now it's the opposite. Now Ten Hag is quite clearly the boss of that football club. Nobody else, not the players, not Richard Arnold, not anybody else. And United cannot get in his way. They must stay out of his way. They must back him 100%. They can't do what they did with Mourinho. They can't do what they did with Solskjaer when they had 2 good seasons. Then they fell out with parsimony. I don't think Ten Hag is the type of guy that will allow Manchester United to fall back into their old habits.
I agree with you. I think Ten Hag's been brilliant, and I think in terms of what he's offered us, it's as close to Sir Alex Ferguson in terms of man management and management of the club as such as what we've had, because we've always had, I hate to say it, but yes men. Apart from probably Mourinho, Van Gaal wasn't either, but obviously they left on their own terms. But in terms of what we have and what we get going forward with Ten Hag, something different. But the point that really will set Ten Hag out from the others is if Ronaldo does this again, if Ronaldo makes a public example of himself like he did, that should be it. He's had one strike. If this happens again and Ronaldo somehow gets one game out and back into the lineup like he did tonight, then for me it's all wrong. Ronaldo should have been banished after what happened. And I can't believe I'm actually saying that because I'm the biggest Ronaldo fanboy there is. I got slagged on this a few weeks ago for the way I was backing him. What he done was totally wrong. Totally wrong and disrespectful to the fans, totally wrong and disrespectful to his teammates. And not only that, to Ten Hag. So Ten Hag should never have played him tonight. And again, I think he played him out of necessity because there's no one else.
Here's the other thing about this, Colm. Manchester United players were picking their games last season. Cavani was doing it, right? So Cavani was doing it, but he was much more discreet about it. He wasn't sitting on the bench saying, I'm refusing to come on. He was faking injuries and turning around, well, allegedly, saying, I'm not playing. That's, to me, is treacherous, is not as refusing to come on, right? Mourinho was complaining about players refusing to play through the pain barrier. Going back as far back as that. What Ronaldo did personified an attitude that used to exist at Manchester United. Cristiano Ronaldo is in want a situation right now where he's not playing for Manchester United. He's playing for a move, right? He right now isn't playing to convince Ten Hag he should stay up, Manchester United should start. That settles sense. It's done, right? He's not going to be a Manchester United starter, nor can he be, nor should he be, right? What Cristiano Ronaldo is doing right now is trying to convince other football clubs that he is worth taking a risk on because he will score you goals, because he will still win you games of football. And the problem with that is when you're watching this and you're looking at him walking out, when you're looking at his attitude, when he was talking about doing an interview where he was going to out this person and out that person. When you watch him do stuff like that, all that acts as a deterrent. He has a World Cup coming up, right? If you turn around to a guy in mid-October and say, if you want to leave in January, fine. You've got a World Cup coming up in 4 weeks. The best thing for you to do, no matter how intolerable this is to get your head down, try and get as much game time, go have a good World Cup, then leave. The worst thing for you to do is to do exactly what you just did. And by the way, do you want that guy treating your under 23s? When he first came, I thought, brilliant example to the young players. I'm wrong, right? Because if anything, yes, example had to be a professional, but his attitude, right? And maybe his attitude is what made him great. I accept that. But he's at a point in his career where, what is it the young kids say? His arse is writing checks, his mouth is writing checks, and his arse can't cash. He's not good enough to deliver consistently on the top stage that makes his behaviour worth it. So he is playing for a move, and he's been badly advised on all of this because he never should have put the transfer request in the summer until he had a serious offer. I think Chelsea wanted to buy him, probably told him they were going to do it. He felt I was confident it was going to happen. Tuchel got in the way. I still think that might be forced on Graham Potter in January, but he should have had an offer lined up, concrete to leave before he behaved like he did. And then Mendes should have had him by the scruff and Colm said, I know this is intolerable, but don't do that because all that's going to do, maybe he plays against Chelsea at the weekend. Maybe he comes on as a sub. Maybe that's the best chance he has of getting the outcome that he wants.
I think the best thing to come out of it was obviously Ten Hag. Could have went one of two ways. Could have went the Rangnick side of things, the Solskjaer side of things, or could have went like Ten Hag. And Ten Hag come out of this with the experience of someone like that in your changing room, of a big name. There's no one bigger. So whenever we're signing players and there's players thinking of throwing the toys out of the pram, Ten Hag's been there and done it now with Ronaldo, because when you're coming from a team like Ajax and you haven't got superstars in your team like that, when you've got someone like Ronaldo and you're able to handle him the way Ten Hag's handled it, I think he's come out of the situation looking unbelievable. And to me and to the fans, I think the most fans, that's been the most likable thing about Ten Hag is his man management skills.
Everything. I can't find a single fault with him. I mean, every time I hear him talk after a win, I love it because he never turns around and over eulogizes. He never turns around and says, we were magic, we improvement, and he means it, right? He said something tonight that I thought was prophetic and beautiful. This is not a pitch you learn on. This is a pitch you deliver on, right? You have, and this is a really, really important point because we are sitting here emerging from a period where we've been giving players 2, 3, 4 years to show they're good enough. I singled out Paul Pogba. I'm going to single out Donny van de Beek. Son, how long do you need before? I know you've been injured, but you've had 2 years at this football club. You don't get that long at a top club, whether it's Manchester United, Real Madrid, or any top football club, to show that you're good enough, right? You have to show glimpses. This is the same for Harry Maguire, the same for any footballer who's been in a significant long run of poor form, right? This is not, we're not taking a heuristic approach here. You need to deliver. When you play for Manchester United, when Marcus Rashford made his debut for United at 17, he scored 2. Right? He didn't know he was going to be in the game until the warm-up. Not ideal. Chance presented itself, he took it. Right? That's what you have to do. You get a chance at this football club, you take it. What you don't do is you don't get 2, 3, 4, 5 years. We have to buy this footballer to unlock him. We have to do this. 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 We have to play this system. This system needs this manager. No. And I'm glad to see Ten Hag laying down the law and saying everything is about earning the right to play.
I think what you said there's perfect, and obviously for us as fans, we like that because it's more like what we seen years ago at United. They wanted you to set up an OnlyFans. So, yeah, do you know what? The people are calling for it, mate. You're going to have to do it. You're going to have to speak to your big mate Danny and get something
Oh, say
sorted.
you don't you be starting OnlyFans, you get arrested.
No, but obviously against West Ham on Sunday, I want to see more of the same as what we're seeing tonight. We need to keep creating these chances. I don't think Ronaldo should start. I know he scored tonight, but I don't think he should start. I think I'd play Rashford down the middle. I would play Sancho, probably much to your bemusement. You wouldn't have
No,
on
I
about it,
not to
but
my amusement.
Sancho on the left and Anthony on the right.
I rate Sancho, but I just feel he's not a winger. When I watch him, I'm like, when I think of a winger,
But
and
is
maybe
he
I'm
good enough
wrong.
to play down the middle? Probably
I
not.
don't know. I don't know, and that's a really good point because who do you leave out? I wouldn't leave out Fernandez. I wouldn't leave out Ericsson. This is a problem for Jadon Sancho. Jadon Sancho doesn't exhibit any of the characteristics you associate with a winger, right? He's technically very, very good with the ball at his feet, right? He, I didn't forget about Sesko. I mentioned it, mate, but I'll mention it again. I'll elaborate a bit on it. Jadon Sancho doesn't exhibit any of the characteristics you associate with a winger, but maybe that's partly because that position is changing, like we said, where it's not the old fashioned, you hugging the touchline, chomping on the boots. You're playing in a more centralized position, which I think suits Sancho. The problem for me is he's not quick enough to play out wide because he very rarely beats the defender, takes him on and creates. He's someone that drifts inside quite a bit, which is okay if you're an overlapping fullback, I suppose. And I think Malacia played well with him because I think he's a bit quicker than Shaw. But Jadon Sancho was a bit of an identity crisis about what he actually is. Is he a false nine? Someone that can play central, or is he a winger? I honestly don't know the answer to that yet. He's technically very, very good, but there's parts of me are getting a bit concerned about him. Like I said, he started off really, really well, but I think it's a mark of progress that we're sitting debating things like whether Jadon Sancho fits in this team as a false nine or an out and out winger, rather than talking about what we were talking about last season, that Manchester United needed an exorcism, and I think Tim House given it to them, and so to follow up on that, as mentioned about Sesko. So I mentioned this a little bit mentioned a little bit about this earlier in the pod. So I spoke to a couple of people this week, and these are well-informed people whose opinions are not opinions, who work in football and who I trust. And we were just talking about United and their need for a striker, and I was told that Sesko is still very much on the list. I checked with a couple of people. There was no denials. In fact, there was a mention about whether it could happen in January. It was unlikely, but next summer is still very much a possibility. If it was going to happen in January, it'd be about bringing the budget forward in January. Obviously, United have a concern with Cristiano Ronaldo. Ten Hag has told him he badly wants a striker. Ten Hag will know exactly who he wants. And obviously, Sesko is someone that is very, very highly rated. The concern for United, of course, is there's not a lot. There's a lot of other clubs looking at him. United are also heavily looking at the South American market, with a possibility of doing something in January. Is that's a very real, distinct possibility that they will do something in January. They're not going to let Ronaldo leave the football club and not do anything. Partly because of what you said earlier, because they have to take into consideration that Anthony Martial may not have a body capable of playing professional football week in, week out anymore. I really hope that's not the case. Because he is such a loss in this team. And this is probably a team more suited to his abilities than anyone else, than any other previous United team, maybe Solskjaer's team for a while. But I think this is a much better team than Solskjaer's team. I would also say the rumours about Edwin van der Sar. Is he not United director of football already anyway? How many players is he saying United? No truth in that he is going to come to Manchester United, that they made him an offer. They're quite happy with John Murda in that position. I had a bit of trouble for tweeting that out the other day, by the way. I was asked to delete it.
What was the tweet that you sent out? I don't think I seen it.
I
Oh,
was
okay.
only out for it. It was on that Edwin van der Sar. It wasn't so much the information; it was how it was worded. I got in trouble. I was asked to reword it. But the message remained the same: that van der Sar um, is um, is not someone you need to consider hiring as a director of football. Um, and that leaves a really open question for John Murda, because there's no question all of United signings this summer were Ten Hag signings, not John Murda's. And there's no question what United are going to do going forward. Maybe Murda and his team do the due diligence on Ten Hag's targets, but it'll still be Ten Hag driving recruitment.
I did all these signings have to be signed off by Joel Glazer then?
100%.
So every single one of them and every single one going forward. Is that where the likes of the rumours about Michael Edwards, who was the former Liverpool director
Mm-hmm.
or whatever he was there, coming into it? Do you think that he takes over that role then that Joel Glazer has, or whilst the
Mm-mm.
Glazers are at the club, does that role continue, that Joel Glazer is the final say, even though he has no football knowledge whatsoever on any player coming into this football club?
Joe Glazer is United's director of football de facto. In other words, he makes all the final decisions on who gets signed, all of that. He is in charge of every metric, every how much they pay, how often, the structure of the payments. Every single thing goes through him. So it doesn't matter who United have done. I mean, look, this is lots of owners do this. To be fair, um, and I don't. Well, this is going to burn a bit. A lot of people in key positions at United actually quite like him. I think he's a quite nice, likable, reasonable guy.
Joel Glazer is?
Yeah, and I almost made me sick
Say,
trying to
say
say
that with a
that.
straight face. Say that with a
Yes,
straight face.
honestly, no. But if you speak to people at the club, this is what they'll tell you, right? The,
But
um,
these people at the club who are letting someone with no little to no football knowledge make crucial
oh, of
decisions
course,
for
this
a
is yes, of course,
multi-billion pound
completely agree.
company is ludicrous. So you can think he's nice all you want, but it's a ludicrous decision,
Oh,
surely.
I don't think he's nice. Here's the reality for Manchester United, Colm. No matter if they win every game this season, Manchester United need money. The Glazers don't have it, right? So they're trying to kick this down the road in the hope that there's a Super League that is palatable to fans in some format, because these bastards will be back, um, and it's a cash grab. They don't care what destruction they do to the pyramid of English football or football in general or Manchester United or the competitive nature of European football. They don't care. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about a single Manchester United fan. All they care is that you keep paying. They don't care whether you're happy or not. They care what you do. They don't care how you feel, right? So if fans are pissed off but still pay, they don't care. They don't care if you're unhappy inside the ground, right? So these people need money badly. In an ideal world, if they can find a way to keep a hold of Manchester United with getting money from something like a Super League, they do it because they believe it's one of the most prized assets in sports, which it is. Um, so, as I have been told, and numerous other well-informed journalists, they've been offering a piece of the football club out for a while, and they sold a part of the football club 2 years ago for 134 million, but there were Class B non-voting rights shares. No one wants that anymore, right? So for the Glazers have a problem. How do you attract investment, hundreds of millions of pounds, which they badly need to invest in Old Trafford and other infrastructures, and they don't want to invest in infrastructure? Um, how do you get that money without a commitment to surrender complete control of the football club? What's the incentive for someone to invest? Because here's the thing with United. We could be sitting talking about Manchester United 6 months from now with Ten Hag and a mess, the football club turned upside down and things back to where they were, right? Where United are making progress, but they're still a long way from where they need to be, where it's a solid football club on solid foundations, right? So things can go wrong very, very quickly. And the Glazers have tried to attract investment. They 70, 800 million and there hasn't been that appetite from people. You heard what Jim Ratcliffe said, that he would be willing to do it if there was a way to owners to owning the football club. When Jim Ratcliffe came out in the summer and was talking about United being for sale, some of the people that I was talking to at Bloomberg and some of the other organisations expressed shock at that. Is they said to me, usually the opposite happens. Usually any potential interested party downplays the fact that an asset is for sale so as not to alert other people and attract other bidders, right? You hear this in football all the time, my player's not for sale. Well, or this guy's not for sale, or we're not interested in that player, is not to attract other potential buyers, right? So it doesn't surprise me that he came out a month or so ago, or a couple of weeks ago, and changed course by saying that, according to his information, that are not for sale. All I can tell you is 100%, unless someone's pulling the biggest scam, and I don't really understand why they wouldn't want to pull the wool over my eyes and a bunch of other people's eyes, and going to such extraordinary lengths to prepare documents that are irrefutable, in my opinion, that are rock solid, then I would say it's the biggest scam of all time. Because it's not just me, of course. There's tons of journalists that have talked about this. I'm still getting information on this that I find extremely reliable from people who are anonymous, don't have social media profiles. They have no interest in the attention. In fact, they insist on anonymity. So again, it would be incentive for them to do this. And so to me, the reason why United were trying to get investment in over the summer and looking at this is simply because the money wasn't there to do the things that they need to do. Don't take my word from that. Take Richard Arnold's.
Well, look, I'm a bit, what's the word? I'm a bit of a numpy when it comes to this, right? So I'm going to ask your opinion on it. What is the benefit of the Glazers staying around in the middle of an economic crisis, which is only going to get worse, by the way, that you're ultimately going to lose money in when the benefiters of what your product is, which is the United fans, don't want you there, number one. You're losing money over the period of the next 12 months, the next 6 months, whatever it is that they stay at the football club. Why are they not structuring a sale of the club right now? What's the reason for it if you're going to lose money? What's the benefit to them?
Well, I mean, look, it's even to dilute your ownership. To if you turn around and say we're going to sell 30% of the club, whatever, right, and get I don't know, 700 million to reinvest back in the football club, why would they dilute their ownership? And take 700-800 million and invest it back in the football club? They don't invest money in Manchester United. Why wouldn't you just sell the club 100% outright, walk away with the money? The only thing that these people care about is money. They don't own Manchester United because of the prestige. They don't care about football. There's no interest in it. If Manchester United were not providing them with dividends and losing money, they get rid of it. So obviously, once the incentive to own the football club disappears, then what's that?
Are Manchester United still profitable for the Glazers at this present time?
Well, they're still paying dividends, but that is going to, I mean, it all depends on what happens over the next year, how United continue to perform financially, depending on whether that's sustainable or not. But they'd reached the precipice this summer where to do the things that they need to do to continue to have the bare minimum investment in their business, they need to raise money. Well, there was only a couple of ways of doing that. Selling Class B shares with no voting rights, which people don't want. Selling the football club, or getting external investment. Well, the problem with external investment is big investors want a return on that. Whether that comes in the form of you're essentially selling off future revenues, which United vehemently denied they were doing. They never vehemently denied the club was for sale. They never vehemently denied the club was even partially for sale. But they did find their voice when it came to whether they were going to sell off future revenues or not. And I think it's more telling what they haven't done more than what they have done. So this is a major concern over the next. I mean, even for next summer's budget, where is the money coming from? And Richard Arnold's already told you this, and that's obvious by looking at United's financials. It's going to have to be borrowed. The price of borrowing money in 6 months is going to be not a million miles off what it cost them to borrow money to buy the football club, almost credit card limits. That's not sustainable. And by the way, if you go back to when the last time they refinanced, Hicks and Gillette went bankrupt. They didn't refinance. The Glazers refinanced 3 months before that, or they would have been in exactly the same situation, in my opinion. And that is an illustration of how highly leveraged Manchester United are, and it's always calculated against future revenues, your ability to borrow. Well, United are so unstable. They can't turn around and borrow money and say, look, we're going to be in the Champions League in the next 5 years. No matter what happens this season, they can't say that with any degree of confidence this summer.
It's a scary situation whenever we're still debating whether the Glazers are going to be gone or not, because it seemed like at one point in the summer that it was only a matter of time before they're out. And really, right now, we don't know if they are coming or going. And I know you're swaying towards that they are going to be out of the club within the next 9 months or so, is basically what you're saying. But again, I'm not 100% certain on it.
Well, the reasons why they're offering the football club and offering parts of the football club, those reasons still exist and will exist in 6 months. Those reasons are going to have to be addressed. Manchester United will not sustain where they're at without continued investment. Do they have the money to do it? I don't know. So unless they are willing to put money into the football club, and that's the only thing, that's the main thing that's required of them right now. You've owned this football club for 17 years. You've taken $1 billion out. It badly needs you to put something back in if you want to keep a hold of this for next year or two. They're not willing to do that. And these are not multi-billionaires that have the resources to do it. So, this is not Stan Kroenke. And I would also caution that just getting a billionaire, an extremely wealthy billionaire, will not all of a sudden mean United can go into the market and buy whoever they want. As we've seen with Arsenal, perfect example that doesn't always happen. But if you need to get to a point where they're not leveraged, where their debts are paid off, they could spend 200 million every summer, no problems. So and it wouldn't be an issue. But who knows if the? I can only tell you what's going on. I can't tell you what the outcome's going to be, but whether there's definitely interested parties that have made propositions to the Glazers to buy that football club, and I still believe the most reasonable extrapolation is they'll sell, because those reasons are only going to get worse financially over the next 6 to 9 months, in my opinion.
Hopefully there is.
Hopefully. Folks, we will go ahead and leave it there. It's been an hour, mate. So thanks to all of you for downloads, likes, retweets, follows. I hope your mental health is good. Thanks for everything. Folks, we'll be back again next week. Much appreciated. And hopefully, quick prediction, Mr. Jeremy, before this weekend. You need it West Ham.
Mr. Jeremy, you may watch Call Me Up with all these people watching and your Tinder profile popping up on the right hand side. 3-1 United.
To you.
3-1 United.
3-1 United. All right, Mr. Chocolate Brother. We'll leave it there.
See you later. Have a good one.
Bye, mate. Cheers. Bye.